Okay, so working on combining like terms, the game here is to identify what goes together with, what term goes with what term. And I guess the easiest place to start is just to think about these good old-fashioned numbers here. The -4 goes with the -2 because they're just good old-fashioned numbers. And when, for my students, I want them to circle lightly with their pencil and include the sign, because I don't want, the mistake I don't want to see is if you end up just circling the 4, sometimes you just circle the 4 and the 2 and you forget about the sign and you end up thinking that makes a +6 somehow, but it should be -6. So those two come down, and what I would like you to do when you do this is bring what you've circled down to the far left, because that's going to make it easier for my eyes or whoever's eyes are grading your work. So you bring that down and then you just transfer everything else down, and this is a +2x, so you need that sign. We didn't need it here because there's nothing on the other side of it and we can just get away with not showing the positive. But now that we're going to write it to the left, to the right of this number, we better include that sign. So we carry everything down, and now we're ready to do it again. This coefficient, this number, has an x as its ID tag. That's how I like to explain this. You basically look at, it's not about the number, it's about this as the ID tag. And they are like terms because their ID tag matches. So now we can put them together, and like I said, I want you to bring it over here. Normally it's not really necessary, I usually just bring it down, but because it makes it easier for my eyes to figure out what you've done, I'm encouraging my students to do that. So +2. So since they have the same ID tag, now we can put them together. It's like you have 2 of these and you have 3 of the same thing. So we can say that we have 5 of them. So +5x, bring down the -6 and +x.
Mr. Forbes, please come to the office. Mr. Forbes, you have a phone call in the office.
And I understand how a student might want to put all 3 of these together, circle all 3 of them, and at the early stages of doing this, I'm not recommending that you do that. I want to see, I'm demanding actually of my students to see just 2 terms circled and work that out. So showing every step is of course worth points in the way I grade this stuff. So now these are going to go together because they both have x. And if this confuses you in any way because there's not a number here, you have to understand, you have to know that there's an understood 1 there. And we can just get away with not writing it because 1 times x is just x. So it's an understood 1. But +5, +1, we get +6x minus 6. And now we're down to a point where this has an ID tag of x. This is just a good old-fashioned number. Doesn't have the ID tag that matches this one, so we can't go any further. And once you bring one of these problems down as far as you can go, then you just stop. So we're simplifying it. And we can get away with not showing the positive here also. So either way it would be right. And it's also true to say that if you wrote -6 plus 6x, that would be the same, because as we learned in class, the commutative rule of addition means that you can switch places with these and it's the same thing. So either this or that, you'd get it right. And that's what I expect to see from my students when working down a combining like terms type problem.